The discovery in the ruins. The desert plain shimmered beneath a thin veil of heat. Calen Ward adjusted the straps of his exopack and pushed further into the ruins, his boots crunching over shattered stone. This world, Caldro's Fall, once the site of one of the fiercest battles in the Galactic Wars, was nothing but scarred dust and broken metal now. Entire cities had been burned to glass. Salvagers came here to strip wrecks, not to remember history. Calen wasn't like most salvagers. While others hunted quick-score alloys and weapons caches, he had a knack for the strange and half-broken. A human engineer with an obsession for puzzles, he made his living not by finding the most valuable pieces, but by fixing things others considered useless. He found the bunker entrance by accident, a jagged crack in the ground half-buried beneath dunes. The heat sensors on his visor showed faint traces of old power still humming inside. Curiosity tugged harder than caution, as it always did with him. With a grunt, he pried open the hatch and descended into the darkness below. The air inside smelled of rust and ancient ash. His wrist light cut across collapsed girders, scorched walls, and half-melted consoles. He almost turned back. It looked like every other ruin on this planet. Then his light struck something massive, metallic, and half-buried beneath a slab of ferrocrete. For a long moment, Calen just stared. It wasn't a tank. It wasn't a turret. It was humanoid, 8 feet tall, armor-plated, one arm pinned under rubble. Its optics were dull, its chest plate cracked, but there was no mistaking it. A war android. Calen's pulse quickened. He'd heard stories of them as a child. Machines built by the Zyari Dominion during the height of the wars, said to be capable of slaughtering entire companies of soldiers without pause. They weren't supposed to exist anymore. Most had been destroyed, dismantled, or sealed away. And yet, here one was, silent as a tomb guardian. He should have left it. Every instinct screamed danger. But something about the way the machine lay there, like a fallen soldier abandoned by time, made him pause. "Hell," he muttered, setting down his pack. "You're probably worth more melted down. But let's see what you've got under the hood." It took hours. He cleared rubble, patched into scorched cables, and rigged a portable fusion cell to its failing core. His hands shook as he worked, half from excitement, half from the thought that the thing might snap awake and tear him in half. Still, he couldn't stop. This was what he lived for, the challenge of the broken, the chance to make dead things breathe again. At last, the final connection sparked. The android's chest plate throbbed with faint blue light. Calen staggered back, shielding his eyes as panels hissed and hydraulics groaned. The war machine moved. Slowly, joints screeched and dust fell from its frame as it lifted its head. Optics flared like twin suns, piercing the darkness. Calen's breath caught. His hand hovered near the shot pistol at his belt. The android shifted, flexing its arm free of the rubble. It sat upright, scanning the bunker with predator precision. Then its gaze locked on him. For 3 long seconds, nothing happened. The air itself seemed to tighten. The machine's arm raised, integrated weapon systems whining to life. Calen braced himself. Too late to run, too far to hide. "Easy," he whispered, palms raised. "I'm the one who fixed you. If you're going to kill me, at least remember that." The android froze. Its optics flickered, then dimmed slightly. The weapon powered down. It tilted its head as though confused, some fractured logic wrestling within its core. Calen exhaled slowly, realizing he'd been holding his breath. "Well," he said, forcing a crooked grin. "Guess you're not a mindless motorbot after all." The machine said nothing, only sat there watching him with unreadable intensity. But in that silence, Calen felt something strange, a question hanging unspoken between them. Whatever this war android had once been, its story wasn't finished. And now, because of his meddling hands, it had begun again. The android's awakening. The bunker walls seemed to shrink as the machine stood at last, towering over Calen. Dust cascaded from its armor with each motion, the weight of centuries grinding free. Its optics glowed with an unnatural light, bright enough that Calen's visor dimmed automatically. The war android's voice, when it came, was a fractured chorus of static and bass. Designation: Varax 7. Operational status: Era Error. System corruption detected. Calen flinched. The machine's voice wasn't just a sound. It reverberated in his chest. "You remember your name," he said carefully, hands still raised. "That's a good start." The android tilted its head, movements precise yet oddly hesitant. "You are not Dominion. Species profile, human. Enemy. Why? Restore enemy unit." Calen shrugged, forcing calm into his tone. "Because leaving you to rot felt wrong. Besides, I'm an engineer. Fixing things is what I do." For a moment, the android was silent. Then, in a blur of motion, its arm snapped up, weapons systems locking on him again. Warning tones screamed in Calen's ears as his visor identified incoming threat vectors. He didn't move. "If you were going to kill me, you'd have done it already. So either you are hesitating, or part of you doesn't want to pull that trigger." The machine's optics flickered. Its arm trembled slightly, then lowered. Weapons powered down with a low whine. "Unclear," it rumbled. "Programming, fragmented. Orders, contradictory. Must analyze." Calen let out the breath he'd been holding and eased his arms down. "That's better. Look, whatever you were built for, that war's long over. The Dominion's gone. You don't have to follow those orders anymore." The android processed this, optic light dimming, then flaring brighter again. "Impossible. Dominion, eternal." Calen snorted. "Yeah, well, eternal things don't end up buried under rubble for 300 years. The machine paused. For the first time, Calen thought he saw something like uncertainty ripple through its posture. He stepped closer, ignoring the protests of his survival instincts. "You've got a choice now. You can sit here and rust, or come with me. My ship's got tools, power, maybe enough to stabilize your systems. What do you say?" The android loomed above him, silent. Then, surprisingly, it nodded once, a sharp, mechanical dip of the head. Calen smiled faintly. "All right then, partner. Let's get you out of this tomb." Hauling Verax 7 back to the surface was no small task. The machine was heavy, even with its systems partially active, but it moved with mechanical efficiency, matching Calen's pace. Other salvages scattered when they saw it, shouting warnings, some even aiming rifles. Calen barked back that it was under control, though he wasn't sure he believed it himself. By the time they reached his ship, the Far Lantern, Calen was exhausted. The vessel wasn't much to look at, a patched-up freighter held together by stubbornness and too many repairs. But it was home. The android paused at the ramp, optics scanning the hull. Vessel integrity, marginal. Flight capability, 71% probability of failure. Calen scowled. "Yeah, she's ugly, but she flies." The machine stepped inside. Immediately, the ship's AI voice crackled through the intercom, sharp with alarm. "Warning. Unknown hostile system detected." Calen froze. "Lantern, relax. He's with me." "Correction," the AI replied, voice tight. "Signal originating from subject car. Broadcast pattern, classified war code. Transmission active." Calen's stomach dropped. "Transmission? To where?" "To everywhere," the AI said flatly. "The moment you powered it, the signal engaged. Location compromised. Recommend immediate disposal of hostile unit." The android stiffened, optics flaring. "No, I did not initiate broadcast." Calen rounded on it. "What the hell did I just bring aboard?" "Not intentional," Verax 7 growled, clutching its chest plate. "Failsafe embedded centuries ago. Recall beacon. I am compromised." The Far Lantern's sensors blared as multiple red markers lit up on the star chart. Ships, faint but converging, had already picked up the signal. Calen's mouth went dry. In fixing this machine, he hadn't just woken up a relic. He lit a beacon for anyone and everyone who wanted to claim it. And in the lawless fringe of the galaxy, that was just about everyone. The shocking revelation. The control deck of the Far Lantern bathed in crimson as warning lights flared across the panels. Calen's heart pounded in rhythm with the ship's alarm. "Lantern, status report," he snapped. "Multiple incoming vessels on intercept vectors," the AI answered. 2 raider craft, one Dominion signature fragment, an unidentified human patrol. Estimate arrival, 3 hours. Calen cursed under his breath. That was the problem with the galaxy. Word of profit spread faster than light. A war android was worth more than entire fleets, and the beacon he'd unknowingly triggered had shouted across every band of space. He turned to Verax 7, who stood rigid in the corner, optics dimmed to a simmering glow. The android looked less like a weapon now and more like a prisoner awaiting judgment. You knew this would happen, Calen said, jaw tight. The machine's voice rumbled low. Negative. My core was altered, embedded with recall beacon protocols. Dominion command ensured no unit could ever remain hidden. If destroyed, signal ends. If revived, its head dipped slightly. It calls the galaxy. Calen rubbed his temples. So you're basically a walking flare gun. The android did not reply. For a long moment, only the hum of the ship filled the silence. Then Calen straightened. Well, tough luck for them. I didn't pull you out of the dirt to hand you over. You endanger yourself, Verax 7 said, optics narrowing. Those who come will kill you to reclaim me. Calen grinned crookedly, though the weight in his chest was heavy. I've been hunted before. Difference is, this time I've got an 8-foot war machine watching my back. The android tilted its head. Why protect me? I am weapon, not ally. Maybe you don't get it, Calen said, leaning closer. You're not just circuits and steel anymore. You hesitated back in that bunker. You made a choice. That means there's more to you than programming. Something flickered in the machine's optics. Hesitation, uncertainty, perhaps even curiosity. Hours later, the first raider ships descended. Rusting hulls patched with scavenged parts, painted with blood-red insignias. Pirates, eager for prize money. Calen scrambled across the deck, arming defensive turrets and powering shields that barely held at 50%. Lantern, keep us between the debris fields, he ordered. Make them come to us slow. Acknowledged. Trajectory adjusted. Verax 7 stood beside him, motionless until the first cannon blast rocked the far lantern. Then, as though something ancient surged awake, its optics burned bright. Authorization override, it growled. Plates shifted along its arms, revealing integrated plasma cannons. Calen's stomach clenched. Wait, don't just blast them. We need them off our back, not vaporized. The android's weapons paused mid-charge. Clarify, non-lethal suppression required. Calen nodded quickly. Scare them off, disable weapons, whatever it takes. But no massacres. Not unless you want to prove every story about you right. The hesitation lasted only a breath. Then Verax 7 strode to the firing console, interfacing directly. In moments, precision counterfire launched from the far lantern's turrets, crippling the raiders' engines without destroying their hulls. Calen gaped. You controlled my systems, remotely. Integration protocols, Verax 7 replied flatly. I was designed to command fleets. One vessel is simple. The words sank in like lead. Command fleets. What do you mean? The machine's optics flared brighter. I am not standard unit. I was field general of the Dominion's war host. I commanded millions of constructs. Entire systems burned beneath my directives. Calen's blood ran cold. So reviving you didn't just bring back a weapon. It lit up the galaxy to tell them their warlord's alive again. The android bowed its head slightly. Accurate. For a moment, Calen couldn't breathe. Every instinct screamed to eject the machine into space, cut his losses, and run. But then he looked at Verax 7, this towering relic, standing with weapons dormant, obeying his request for mercy. Doesn't matter who you were, Calen said finally, voice steady. What matters is who you are now. And right now, you're fighting with me. The android studied him, silent, as if parsing data too complex to compute. Then the AI cut in sharply. Correction. New fleet detected. Larger. Approaching at high velocity. Estimated arrival. Minutes. Signature matches. Dominion design. Calen's throat tightened. The Dominion? They're supposed to be gone. Verax 7 straightened. Posture taut. Not gone. Waiting. My recall signal has awakened them. Calen stared at the red blips flooding his star map. His gamble to revive a broken relic had just escalated into something far beyond survival. This wasn't just about one android anymore. This was about the fate of entire sectors, war or redemption. The Dominion fleet emerged from the void like a ghost army resurrected. Sleek, angular warships slid into formation, their hulls gleaming with alien script that hadn't been seen in centuries. Even the stars seemed to dim under their presence. On the bridge of the far lantern, Calen gripped the console hard enough to whiten his knuckles. Lantern, count them. 17 warships. Weapons active. Shield strong. His throat dried. His patched-up freighter couldn't last a second in that kind of crossfire. He looked at Verax 7, towering beside him, optics glowing with an intensity that made the air feel heavy. They came for you, Calen said. What are you going to do? The android's voice rumbled like an earthquake. They expect command. They expect me to reclaim my throne. And, will you? Calen asked carefully. For a long moment, the machine was silent, as though calculating. Then, I do not know. The Dominion fleet broadcast a signal, sharp and commanding. Calen's console lit up with alien symbols, the language translated by the ship's AI. Field General Verax 7. Your return is acknowledged. Command protocols unlocked. Take your rightful place. Lead us. Calen's heart hammered. He turned to Verax 7. They'll follow you. All of them. You could start the war again. The android stood rigid, processing. His massive hands flexed slowly. It was all I was made for. Calen stepped closer, voice low but fierce. You've already proven you can be more. You spared those raiders. You listened to me. You chose. Choice, the android murmured, as if tasting the word. A concept alien to me. Not anymore, Calen said. You've got one now, so make it count. The fleet began to power weapons. The far lantern shook as targeting locks painted across its hull. Decision time, Calen muttered. Verax 7 turned toward the central console, plugging an armored arm into its interface. His optics blazed brighter than ever before. Dominion fleet, his voice thundered across the comms, resonating so deeply the far lantern shivered. This unit no longer serves war. Your recall is denied. Stand down. For a moment, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Then came the reply. Protocol violation. Defection detected. Correction required. The warships opened fire. Bolts of energy streaked across the void, slamming into the far lantern's shields. The ship bucked violently, sparks flying from the consoles. Shields at 20%, the AI barked. Calen fought to stabilize power. Verax, whatever you're planning, do it fast. The android's optics flared with fierce light. If I am general, then I command. He extended both arms, channels in his armor glowing with deep, burning energy. Across the Dominion fleet, systems flickered as his ancient authority code rippled through their cores. Ships trembled, weapon arrays shutting down mid-charge. Obey, Verax growled, voice sharp with authority. But not to kill, to cease. One by one, the massive warships faltered, cannons silencing, engines stalling. Confusion rippled through their ranks. They were programmed to follow. But their orders had changed. Calen watched in awe. You're rewriting them. Not rewrite, Verax rumbled, optic light dimming slightly from strain. Redirect. Dominion built us for destruction. I command them to stand down, to rest. The fleet froze, then began to drift, weapons dead, like titans finally surrendering to slumber after centuries of war. When the silence returned, Calen's hands trembled on the console. You just stopped a fleet. Verax sagged, servos whining, but remained upright. I chose. Not war. Not conquest. Peace. Calen let out a shaky laugh. Guess that makes you the most dangerous pacifist in the galaxy. The android's head tilted slightly. I do not fully comprehend. But I prefer this. Alarms still blinked faintly on the console. Raiders, stragglers, human patrols, all approaching cautiously, watching the dormant fleet. Calen knew new battles were ahead. Politicians, scavengers, warlords, everyone would want to claim or destroy what Verax represented. But for now, in this moment, the war had been stopped not by firepower, but by choice. Verax turned to him. What now? Calen Ward. Calen exhaled, shoulders loosening. Now, we keep flying. See what kind of trouble a stubborn human and a reformed warlord can get into. The android's optics flickered with something like approval. Not weapon, partner. Outside, the silent Dominion fleet drifted like forgotten statues. Inside the far lantern, man and machine stood side by side, not as savior and weapon, not as master and servant, but as equals staring into a future neither could predict. For the first time since Calen had dragged the machine out of the ruins, he felt not fear, but hope.